Hello students, welcome to today's English class. Today we'll be continuing with the chapter we started yesterday, the rat trap. I have marked it where we have to start from. As we discussed, the rat trap is the story of a peddler, of a tramp, of a vagabond who kept on moving from one place to the other, selling his rat traps made of wire. The material for making rat traps he used to arrange by bagging or stealing from the farms, but he was not able to make his both ends meet, so he resorted to petty thievery as well. And on one particular day, while he was walking on the road, he just fell into a line of thought. He started thinking that the entire world around us was a big rat trap, and the human beings were the rats. The entire world offered human beings baits in the form of riches and joys and certain other things, and as soon as the human beings tried to touch the bait, the world rat trap got enclosed on them and they got captured into that. This particular philosophy, this particular line of thought pleased him a lot, because the world had never been kind to him. He had never been welcomed by the people. So he got some unwanted pleasure, some strange kind of pleasure in thinking bad of the world in this way. And then one dark evening, when he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside stand. He knocked on the door and asked for the shelter. Contradictory to his previous experiences, or contrary to his previous experiences, he was warmly welcomed by the owner of the cottage, and he didn't meet sour faces this time. The owner of the cottage lived in isolation. He didn't have wife, he didn't have children. So he was given shelter. Moreover, he was served food as well, and they played together until bedtime. So let's continue. The old man was just as generous with his confidences as with his porridge and tobacco. The old man generously served him porridge and tobacco. Not only this, he shared his confidences with him. While sharing his privacy, his confidences, he was equally generous as he had been generous while serving food. The guest was informed at once. The rat trap seller was the guest in this case. He was informed at once by the old man that in his days of prosperity, his host had been a crofter. Crofter means a farmer working at Ramsjo Iron Works. This is the name of a firm, and had worked on the land. He used to work on their lands actually, not in the factory. Now that he was no longer able to do day labor, it was his cow which supported him. Since he was old now, so he couldn't work in the factory, so he had a cow that supported him. Yes, that bossy is a word that has been used for milch cow, was extraordinary. She could give milk for creamery every day. She could give milk enough that he could go and sell to the creamery. And last month he had received all of 30 kroner in payment. Kroner is a currency like we have rupees, some countries have dollars. So 30 kroner in payment he had got. So this way the old man was generous enough to share his secrets, his private information with the stranger, with the guest in this case. The stranger must have seemed incredulous. What must he have been incredulous about when the old man shared that he had earned 30 kroner by selling the milk? So this particular information might have seemed incredulous, means unbelievable to the stranger, for because the old man got up and in order to make him believe that he had actually earned 30 kroner, went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail. He had hung a leather pouch on a nail. He took that out, that was in the window frame, and picked out three wrinkled 3 kroner bills. He showed him three notes of 10 kroner each that had been crumbled into a pouch, rather wrinkled they were. These he held up before the eyes of the guest in order to make him believe that when he had told him that he had earned 30 kroner, he was true, he was right, and he nodded his head, up and down to make him believe that he had actually earned that amount by selling the milk. Sorry. Then stuffed them back. Then he put the currency back. He pushed the currency back into the pouch. The next day, both men got up in good session. Both men got up afresh The crofter was, after a sound sleep of the night, both got up in good session. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow. The crofter was to go to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought, other man here was the rat trap seller. He probably thought that he shouldn't stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. He had some kind of manners that when head of the family was gotten up, so it was not good for him to keep on lying in the bed and sleeping. They left the cottage at the same time. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat trap said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. The old man went to milk his cow, and the rat trap seller, as usual, went on his dreary ploddings without any purpose, selling rat traps. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. He did not try he just came back and stood again before the door. Actually, his mind underwent some greed and avarice. He just went to greedy, so he thought to come back and steal the currency that had been shown to him by the old man foolishly. He didn't try to get in. However, he only went up to the window, smashed a pane, broke a window pane made of glass, stuck in his hand, put in his hand inside through the grills, and got hold of the pouch with the 30 kroner. He just held the pouch with the 30 kroner. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. So this way he committed a thievery, he committed a crime, he stole the money of the person who had been so kind to him, who had shown utmost amount of generosity towards him, who was not only generous about his porridge and sharing tobacco, who had been generous about sharing his secrets as well, without knowing that the person whom he was sharing secrets was actually a thief. Fine. So this was a temptation. This was a temptation. Led that leather pouch with 30 kroners was a bait. You can say it was a bait. It was a temptation that was laid before the rat trap seller to trap him into something, and he fell into the temptation. He couldn't resist the temptation. He came back and stole the money. As he walked along with the money, now he had stolen money with him. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. He was quite, he was quite contented. He was quite happy with his smartness, that he stayed there, he ate, he enjoyed tobacco, and the next morning he just stole the money as well. How smart he was! He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway and must turn off the road into the woods. So he thought that it was not good. He did not have the courage. It was not right on his part to keep on walking on the public highway, because he had committed a theft, and soon the old man would come back and he would find money missing. He would put two and two together, and he would realize that this might be the act of the person whom he had given shelter. He could inform the police. He could tell the police about the appearance of the person, of the thief, so he could be caught. So he thought that it was not right, it was not judicious on his part to walk on the public highway. So he just turned off the road and enter the woods, dense forests. During the first hours of walking into the woods, this caused him no difficulty. It was a smooth sailing for him. Later in the day, it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into, which he had entered into. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction so that he could come back, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. The paths, they were a maze. They were a maze. They were a kind of a puzzle. They were going from one branch to the other branch, from one way to the other way, and it was quite a strange a strange combination of the paths over there. It was a kind of maze. I would like to type this word for you. Maze. Confused system of paths leading from one to the other, and coming out of that is quite difficult. So this is the word I was pronouncing. Fine. Or labyrinth is another word. Let me type that as well. A crisscross of roads, confusing crisscross of roads. labyrinth you can get into your vocabulary, or this maze word I have